Hello everyone and welcome back to Rimworld and to the Royalty expansion and indeed the 1.1.2571 update. Now this isn't a continuation of the Dark World series, don't worry, that will be continuing, but with so many updates having happened so close together, some of the mods are still reeling and we need to wait on those to fully update before we can continue the series. This is instead going to be a short story, if you will. How short? Well, I guess that depends on you, really. Do let me know down in the comments if you enjoy this video, and we'll see how long the story will play out for. But I have a sneaking suspicion that more than a few of you will enjoy at least where the story begins. Whether you enjoy where it goes, well, that's down to Randy Random, frankly. But to start things off, let's go ahead and have a look at the mods that we're going to be using in this series. Mostly the mods are focused on quality of life, or visual enhancements, that sort of thing. But we do have a couple that change the kind of mechanics of the game. Primarily, a dog said, because we need animal bionics for some very important reasons. We have also got Rim Fridge because, come on, we're building spaceships. I'm sure they can handle building a freezer, my lord. We have also got Doormat because we're not barbarians. Come on, wipe your feet before you go into the bedroom. And also we have got a business of ferret, because Cucumber is an awesome mod author, and ferrets are awesome pets. I frankly don't need any more of a reason than that. Now, onto the scenario. We're going to be using a custom scenario, which is effectively a modified Rich Explorer start. Things to note, we are going to be starting with battery technology rather than gun turrets. We are going to have fairly frequent flash storms. We're going to have fairly permanent toxic fallout, and also a climate cycle, which means that the planet has an exaggerated elliptical orbit rather than a circular one. It'll take about 4 years for the whole process to for you to do a full revolution around the sun. So when you're far out, it's going to be really cold. When you're close in, it's going to be really warm. It does add to the difficulty a little bit. To offset that, we are going to be starting with a couple of different things. You may already have a pretty good idea of where this is going just based on the human meat in the Warg alone. But for those of you who do not know, well, you're in for a bit of an interesting time. As for the storyteller, we're going to be playing on Randy Merciless. We are going to have reload anytime mode on, but as many of you who are familiar with the channel will already no doubt know, I'm going to be playing Bronzeman. Anything that happens, happens. The reload anytime is mostly there to stop any bugs from happening and thus completely dooming an otherwise successful colony. We will only be using this in the most dire of circumstances, or, hardware failure on my side. But for the most part, expect this to be Iron Man for all intents and purposes. And so we're finally on to the world. Now, if you would like to play along, here's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need the seed, Hannibal. Global coverage, 100%. You want rainfall to be just one spot below high. Drop the overall temperature by 1 and increase the population 1 pip towards crowded, and then generate. It will take a little bit of time for it to generate a 100% sized world, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. With the magic of post-production, our world is complete. Look at it. It's a fantastic, if somewhat cold and extremely deadly world. Now, with permanent toxic fallout, one place is honestly more or less as good as the other. You can go to the extremes, so for example, ice sheet or extreme desert, to add that little bit of extra difficulty, but the main points on a tomb world is that you're not going to have any animals outside of events, and trees are going to be a thing of legend, much like almost any other plant that would grow outdoors, because the planet just really doesn't like life, yours included, and will do everything it can to snuff it out. We are instead going to be starting around Sophia's Mistake Ocean. Those of you who have seen my streams will know that I tend to like picking from the largest geographic element and then burrowing down further and further to the actual location. And so it comes to the names, really. And Sophia's Mistake Ocean caught my eye straight away. What mistake Sophia made? Who can say? We're going to be starting around the Tuisia Fen, well, a little bit to the left of that, quite close to Sophia's Mistake, and we're going to have a nice spattering of camps nearby. Now, this is going to be quite important for us. As I said, animals aren't going to be a thing that happens much outside of events, and that includes human animals. But they are going to be significantly more plentiful than almost anything else. Now, we are going to be starting in the temperate forest. pretty much I spent a little bit of time looking for marble, granite, and slate. The Holy Trinity. Marble and granite are the only two functional blocks that really matter here. Marble is a particularly pretty block, so anything you make with it, it'll be especially beautiful. And granite is a particularly dense block, or rather rock, and anything you make of it is going to be especially hardy. Slate, I just like in contrast to the marble. It's a nice bright and dark contrast. You can get a proper human-sized chessboard made out of marble and slate. We're going to be playing on a slightly larger than normal map. We are not going to go to large because that is given a warning. Generally speaking, I don't think it would really matter, but the game does seem to play a little bit better on mediums. And finally, we come to the stars of this story. Could it really have been anyone else? I mean, you saw the human meat, you saw the Warg, you knew what was going to happen. It is, of course, a Dark Aavak story. Now, how did Dark Aavak get here? Well, we don't know. No doubt a series of adventures and or misadventures brought he and indeed Yoko to this point. Maybe they just need to get away, and what better place to hide than on a literal death world? Not as many people are willing to chase you there, though I imagine that along the way they had to duck and avoid detection here and there. Perhaps some of their more exotic bionics were discarded along the way. And that will definitely be true of Yoko, because this is the Rimworld, okay? Yes, people with metal limbs walking around, yeah, it's a story. It might get you a free drink at a tavern, but it's not necessarily going to bring down the wrath of the Empire on you. But a warg literally built to devour nations, that's a little bit more than a story. That's the kind of prize that powerful people would covet, and covet so much that if they couldn't have it, then they would be completely okay with destroying it. So no doubt several people had to die for Dark Aavak to get the money together to not only remove Yoko's bionics, but regrow the limbs, because healer mech serums are not cheap to come by. But nevertheless, here we are. We've got a spattering of skills roughly equivalent to where Dark Aavak was before. Of course, he's a cannibal, transhumanist, and naturally, you know, every different person who asks where Dark Aavak came from is going to get a different story. This story this time is that he was a jungle kid and then a lone traveler. Specifically, that he was raised by wargs in the jungle. Why he was abandoned by his parents, who knows? But he found better parents, more aligned with his particular tastes. And his warg adoptive parents taught him all the best things about the world, how to run, how to fight, how to eat people. He was eventually come upon by a doctor, though, who decided that he should return to his own kind and tried to civilize them a little bit. And to some degrees managed to, but couldn't quite override his particular feral tastes. As a lone traveler, though, he did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, traded his story, one of many of them, to whomever would really listen, and has made his way to the here and now. And it is time to start the story. She-devil? Really? Well, I'm sure some people call you a she-devil, actually, Yoko. But no. This is, in fact, Yoko. And can only ever be Yoko. Yoko and Dark Aavak back out in their adventures once again. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Now, with things paused and from a bird's eye view, let's take a closer look at our surroundings. Got a lot of mountain to deal with up north and a spattering of hills down south and really throughout most of the rest of the map. We've got a few ruins here and there. We do have caves, quite a lot of them in fact, and at least one has got insects in it. Were there any other insects on the map? No, it doesn't look like it. That seems artificial. Yeah, that's going to probably be an ancient danger there. Alright, we've got a couple of ruins that we can deconstruct for materials and a few of the new beauty items that have been added by royalty that we can either make use of or just strip down for parts. Several geotherms are on the map. In fact, where we've started seems to be a beautiful little location to begin our base. We've got a little bit of water down there, a bit of rich soil, I would imagine. Now, we do actually have a new mechanism for looking for the best places to plant our crops, thanks to the update and to royalty. But it doesn't look like we've got too much in this little nook over here. That's a shame, but most of it is arable land. The yellow is below average, the bright green is above average, and the regular green, the kind of more pastel green, is your average 100% fertility. Now, let's have a look at this nest. Now, the thing to be aware of with hives that are on the map when you start with the map,
they will never reproduce. So this hive is not going to get bigger. That does also mean, I believe, that they will never make more insects. But there have been some changes to the way that hives work. They will naturally kind of restore their health over time. Now, that might mean they will also restore the insects. If so, then this is a treasure trove on this map, because as you can see, there's pretty much nothing else alive here, including plants. So that might have been an enormous boon for us, as it'll give us some fresh meat. Not the best meat, of course. People don't tend to like eating insect meat, but when your choice is insect meat or no meat, well, I think the choice really more or less makes itself. Okay, so with a better idea of what we're going to be working with, now comes the decisions. Now, when you're playing with permanent toxic fallout, you have to start very, very differently. The key is roofs. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn off the auto home zone. No, we don't want that. What we would like very much is to have a roofed-in area. Now, you can expand out from about 7 tiles away from the nearest wall to have your roofs. So let's go ahead and do something along these lines. I know this is only 6, but this will give us a nice little area plus some extra for having walkways outside of any initial structure. We are going to try and build a structure very, very fast. The first thing that we're going to want to do, though, is get a little stockpile zone in here. And this should really be for, well, actually, let's expand it out a little bit more. We've got plenty of room to play with, so let's go ahead and do that. We are going to want this one for, well, clear everything first. We don't want anything rotten, but we want all of our foods in there. We're going to want all of our medicines, all of our drugs, because for some reason, tea is considered a drug. I take offense, Tynan. How dare you? Okay, it's maybe made with psychoactive components. It's still tea, though. It says it in its name. Therefore, this should be elevated from drug to survival necessity, in my personal opinion. But there we go. Right, other things that we're going to want to bring in, wood. Now, usually I would say leave the wood outside, or just leave it in a roofed area. I mean, it's just wood. It'll decay very, very slowly. But this is the only wood we have. And there are certain things that flat out need wood. So we were going to want to bring that in. And we'll worry about the silver and the steel later on. We're not going to care about those right now. Silver doesn't decay outside, but raiders tend to like silver. So as you can imagine, it'll be something that they'll make a beeline for. And we don't really want them to do that. No. There we go. Right. Okay. The next thing... got to set up the work priorities. This is always kind of a bore, but with a rich explorer start... realistically, there's very little that you need to do. As Dark Aavak is going to be the only doctor here for a while, I need him to doctor more than patient. So this way, if he has a life-threatening problem, he'll tend himself and then go lie down, rather than lie down and wait for tending that it's never going to come along and he'll die in his bed. We will drop wardening. That doesn't need to be up there. Cooking does need to be up there, because if I've got a butcher order, I want it to be done as soon as I tell them to do it. Though we're not going to be necessarily telling them to do that straight away, and all the rest can remain on 3 for the time being. As for restrictions, my usual style is 2 hours of enforced sleep from midnight onwards, depending on if they're a night owl or not, and 2 hours of recreation. Yes, I only give them 5 hours of sleep, because frankly, that's all you need. Maybe... I'll be kind this time. You wake up at 7 a.m, 2 hours of enforced recreation, then after 9 a.m, we'll go for about this many hours of, well, we'll cut it back a little bit. Now, the reason why I have a period of do anything after a sleep is the 2 hours of sleep will enforce that someone goes to sleep. And then until they have something which they are forced to do, like work or go and enjoy themselves, though there's a bit of an asterisk with the recreation thing. But as long as it's not work, then they may just choose to stay in bed and continue sleeping. So if they are the sort of person who doesn't need as much sleep, well, they'll wake up when they are fully rested. They don't stay in bed longer than that. Recreation, I do believe it will allow you to continue sleeping through it if you need rest, but work will absolutely get you up. So if Dark Aavak just doesn't need sleep, he'll wake up before then. But the 2 hours is to make sure that he can get back to wherever I've told him is his bed. Next, we want a zone. This is going to be one of the only areas that we're going to set up initially, and that is pretty much in here. Please restrict yourselves to the areas which are going to be covered by a roof. And to that tune, we're going to rename this Roof. Nice and simple. Does exactly what it says on the tin. We need to try and keep everyone from getting toxic buildup, because that is going to be really, really bad. There we go. And once you're done with all of that, could you go and grab your rifle as well, please? Thank you. There we go. Let's get that roof over Yoko. There we are. Perfect. And with that, we should start seeing peeps going and grabbing all of the stuff. Now, the important thing with this meat, Yoko can only eat meat. Raw meat and corpses. If it's cooked or prepared in any way, Yoko can't consume it. So we need to make sure that Dark Aavak puts Yoko first, because let's face it, he would. So manage food restrictions. Let's select one. Actually, you know what? I kind of want to delete all of them. There we go. Really? Oh, it's in use. That's fine. We'll delete all of these all the way down, and then change this one to rations. Only thing I want you to eat, I don't want you to eat rotten, no. But I don't want you to eat raw food either. You can, I mean, if you could eat hay, that would be useful, but you can't. You can't eat corpses. Now, this is a thing that I see a lot of people get confused with cannibalism. There are three, more or less, traits that affect the way you can interact with bodies, and specifically with humans as a food. There's bloodlust, there's psychopath, and there is cannibal. Cannibals are fine with eating meat. They're fine with eating raw human meat as long as it's human. It's fine. They'll still get a bit of a debuff for eating raw meat, but it'll be completely drowned by the enormous mood buff they get for eating raw human. The bloodlust and psychopath, I don't believe other than cannibal, no one likes eating the meat, but bloodlust and psychopath will have varying degrees of, yeah, I'm okay with seeing people cut up, or seeing corpses, so on and so forth. But cannibals, I don't believe actually like seeing corpses, or at least they don't like seeing rotten corpses. They're okay with seeing corpses, but once they're starting to rot, it's like, oh, really? You see, this is what I say. Dark Aavak may eat people, but it doesn't mean he has to be uncivilized about it. My lord. But there we go. That should preserve Yoko's food for as long as possible. Now, I'm going to let Dark Aavak get the rest of this stuff in here before I take care of anything else. I really would like you to bring in the Sakai tea, though. Let's get that inside. There we go. Because otherwise, I'm going to cry. Actually, we should probably expand this out just a little bit further. There we go. That'll give us a little bit more room to play with. Now, we could bring in the steel if we really want to do. The main thing is just getting the wood in here right now. Let's have a look at Dark Aavak's health at the moment. No toxic buildup. No toxic buildup on Yoko. I'm so sorry, Yoko. You had such wonderful power claws. They're gone. You were literally a tank that was partially concealed under flesh armor. Alas. Never worry. We will get you back to your prime. Right, there we go. Right, okay, so with that done, we can set up some walls. We're going to have a little place that's indoors, actually indoors, and that would be quite nice. Before we do that, though, let's set up a little stockpile zone just outside. Let's pop this out here, for example. I think that would be fine. This one will be for materials. There we are. Right. Oh, no. Let's go ahead, clear everything. I am only going to want steel in here. Well, realistically, I guess raw resources in most forms. But we're going to want stone blocks, no wood, and I don't think anything else will decay. So I'm fine with that. Silver, however, is going to need to be brought indoors. So let's get that going. Also, let's make sure that this one's a preferred stockpile. Right, well, I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of that extra roof over here. And once again, add the roof in around it. This should all be within the area that we want. And as a result of that, I'm going to increase this to be part of the home zone. So the Dark Aavak will consider sweeping this area once we're ready for that to start happening. Right, there we go. Crack on then, Dark Aavak, if you would be so kind. Let's get these roofs built. There we are. Don't walk on the outside, you fool. Going inside. My lord. I mean, I haven't strictly prohibited him from walking on the outside yet. He is actually allowed to walk anywhere, but that was just annoying. My goodness. Right, let's allow Dark Aavak to bring in the rest of the materials whilst I plan out the room. And there we go. We have set up a nice little area. We've even got everything
hauled in. I've expanded out the roofed area. Now that we have walls, we can expand out a little bit more aggressively around there. Am I going to clear up the junk? Probably not just yet. For now, we've got a sleeping spot for both Dark Aavak and Yoko. And this is a good little spot right now. What have we got around the rest of the map? Now, these ruins are primarily steel. Fantastic. We should be able to just strip those down if we particularly want to, and I do particularly want to. I am going to actually clear out the home zone from these areas. I don't technically want them sweeping the dirt, but we do need to try and get a proper room for Dark Aavak to be in. This is going to be important, and as you can imagine, given that we've only got very limited wood supplies and no way of renewing them, at least not yet, we're not going to be able to use any kind of wood generator, so probably wind power for now, and getting up to solar is going to be a must. Let's go ahead and consider our options. We've got a decent amount of steel out there. I do want to take care of the necessary items first, though, and part of that is going to be expanding this room out. We do need a fair old bit of room to play with. If we can dig back this wall over here, then that should allow us to get in a butcher table and maybe even pop down a fueled stove early on. I don't really want to. I would rather get an early wind turbine up and transition to power ASAP, but having a butcher's table is going to allow us to capitalize on any potential meat that makes itself known to us. Yes, I'm thinking about you, insects. Hopefully this hive can actually produce more insects over time. That would be fantastic if it did. That would remove a significant hurdle for us. We are going to need somewhere to dump these rocks, though, and so let's go ahead and consider that. We're going to need a little dumping stockpile down here, and maybe we can even make this for corpses that have, unfortunately, become completely unusable. That would be a bit of a shame for that to happen. I only want rotten in here, thank you. And yes, pretty much any human, animal, mechanoid corpses, sure, they can go there too, and chunks, of course. I am going to have to get a little bit of a roof over this area, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Let's do something along those lines. Now, we don't necessarily want to go too deep into this mountain, and one way you can check that is for the roofs. Where are we? There we go. Now, unfortunately, this is Deep Mountain. Well, that is unfortunate. Okay. We're going to need to stop digging back here, because right now, any new hives are absolutely going to want to come up around there. So we're going to have to fill that part in, I guess. What I could do is allow us to dig back all the way down here and replace that with a wall. That would be okay. It's probably better not to waste my time digging it, though, because a smooth wall is a little bit better than a regular wall in terms of its beauty. It does take a lot of work to do, but it is an okay option. The one I really need to make sure is just this one, but for the time being, I'm just going to replace it all with steel. Now, that is a bit of a problem. I'd hope that the mountain might go back a little bit deeper than that, but oh well. These things do happen. Right, there we go. I want to expand out our allowed area, the roofed area, all the way down there. There we go. Make sure that this is now properly set to include the home zone. There we are. I am also going to place down a little steel wall right here, just so that when we're exiting this area, if there is a decaying corpse over here, it's not going to be the first thing the Dark Aavak sees, so that we can try and manage his mood. It's going to be important to manage moods, and right now, especially while I'm preventing Dark Aavak from eating his tasty human noms, managing his mood is going to be a little bit harder than it might have been otherwise. Typically, it's not too difficult to manage a cannibal colonist's mood as long as you give them people food. Right, let's see about a steel butcher's table. Steel will be better because it'll only take 20 wood to manufacture, and I'm completely okay with that. However, I'm going to try and do double duty with a bed. Let's go ahead. What time is it? We're on the... which hour? 21st hour. Maybe not then. I'll allow Dark Aavak to start work on this, but if you can finish a regular bed, I will go for wood, because wood is particularly comfortable. Let's have a look. It's beauty of 1, but comfort of 0.75. Almost any other type of bed is less comfortable. Oh, actually, no. I was under the impression that
any other type of bed was less comfortable, but it seems that a steel bed is completely comfortable. All right, it might be just that rock beds. Why? Why are rock beds not comfortable? I feel offended on behalf of the dwarves. It's a normal bed as well, so that's cool. We're going to deconstruct this, and we're going to move this bed indoors. Initially, I know this sucks, but you're going to have to just do your work from your bedside. You're just going to have to perch yourself on the edge of the bed and put of all the things to do right next to your bed. Look, times are hard, all right? In the beginning, it's going to be rough. We're just going to have to accept that. But that is particularly rough. I must be honest. Butchering from your bed, my lord. Okay, Dark Aavak is up and moving around, and it is now time for us to focus on our next immediate problem, and that is the fact that we only have, in this temperature, 1.2 days on Yoko's food. Now, it's not particularly warm. It's 8 degrees. So a wooden cooler, a passive cooler, would not help. That can only drop it to about 17 degrees, I believe. Given that we don't have much wood, what I would normally go for on a forested map would be a wood generator early on. We don't have that luxury. So instead, we are going with a wind turbine. And I think we're going to build it over here. Now, that is a little bit further out from the base than is necessary, but it will allow us to get around the generator and have this room for building as well. Well, we don't need much more of a roofed area than that for the time being, I would say. Let's focus on getting all of this set up as quickly as we can. We do have some steel down there to access as well, which is quite good for us. What we're going to do then is we're going to need to pull this power right over and straight down into here. Yoko, you can move the bed just down there for me. And we are going to want an actual cooler. Now, we did not start with gun turret technology. We started with battery technology, and that's going to be one of the main things that keeps us going. That being said, at the moment, we might actually get away with using a dual refrigerator. Now, the passive cooler will cool a massive area, but it's not passive cooler. The regular cooler will cool a massive area, but it does cost about 200 watts, whereas a dual refrigerator will use a lot less, 90 watts of power. In the beginning, this is pretty much all we need to cool. So, actually thinking about that, to cut back on the amount of power that we're going to be using, let's go ahead and just build a battery. It'll be reasonably cheap for us to do. We can pop that there, and then we can have a dual refrigerator built just down here. Now, what I'm going to do, damn it, I will have Dark Aavak consume the 15 meat there. That's your reward for taking care of Yoko as well as you do. And then we will have all of the rest of the meat popped into this refrigerator. There we go. Let's just get everything set up, please. Oh, damn it. You have to stand outside, didn't you? Still haven't got any toxic buildup just yet. Right, okay. So, with that, let's make sure that this is set to store raw food, meat. Well, it pretty much can store any meat, really. We'll turn off meals. It is purely for meat. And could you please make sure that this stores it as a important priority? This is preferred, that's fine. So the human meat should be storable. There we go, marvelous. And is this going to rot? Depends. If Yoko goes for it, then I'm fine with Yoko eating that, but I don't think she's going to need it in time. No. So, as much as Dark Aavak doesn't need it, go ahead and eat it. There we go. Yum. Now that has given him quite a high boost there. Yes, we ate without a table. Yes, we ate raw food. But I ate the meat of another human, raw, like an animal, like my Warg foster parents taught me. It was so succulent, as nature intended. Well done, Dark Aavak. Not letting food go to waste. Because really, why would you? The people are all screaming, well, there's that dead person over there, but I'm not going to eat them. Instead, I'm going to go out and kill a perfectly already alive animal. No. This is the only civilized thing to do. What? Civilized, my lord. You are wrong. Right, let's pop down a... Well, actually, I'd like to see where this roof ends over here. Right, ends right there. Now, if we count at 6 tiles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we pop a support. Well, actually, if we pop a support there, let's see if that will allow us to get that roof built up. Let's have a look. Yes, it does. Perfect. Now, the reason why I use steel walls as support is simply the matter of resources. Steel walls, while not particularly beautiful, only cost 5 steel. A steel column, whilst beautiful, very beautiful actually, costs 20. It's a rather expensive thing to do when we're reasonably short on resources this early on in the game. But now we've expanded out the roofed zone, so I'm happy to expand out where Yoko is allowed to go. There we go. Perfect. And we're even storing our power. Refrigerators. Truly a marvelous invention. 16 hours on that food as well, so we might be able to take care of that. And also this has the added benefit of not requiring that Dark Aavak be sleeping in a really, really warm environment. A really cold environment. Though that being said, I've got a bit of an idea. I know, dangerous. But let's reinstall this bed around like so. So you could crack on with that, Dark Aavak. Thank you. And we are going to place down Yoko's sleeping spot at the foot of the bed. Oh, come on. Maybe sometimes she'll just decide not to be on the floor and Dark Aavak will wake up with a ruddy great cute Warg, crushing all the blood out of his legs. But that's what pets are. You take the trying times with the snuzzles. It's all for the snuzzles, really. We want a research bench because we desperately need to get to solar technology. Now, how expensive is this? 100 steel. Well, I think we can make that happen. And by having the bed right there, both of these benches will benefit from it. Now, to get to that, we are going to need to do a bit of mining, I would say. In fact, I would like all of that mined. Have we got that under a roof? No, we do not. Rather, have we designated it to be roofed? No, is the answer there. Let's make sure that is fixed and that this area is expanded out. Because ultimately, I do want to make sure that should I need Dark Aavak to remain in roofed area, that it's fairly easy for me to designate that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and have this whole area just cordoned off so that it's a little bit safer for us. And should anyone try to access the camp from that direction, well, they won't be able to. They're going to have to access it from out here. Ideally, if we can encourage a hive to spawn in there and somehow prevent them from trying to eat us, then this would be an amazing gauntlet to force people to have to go through. Obviously, especially while this wall is just plain old steel, they'll just sap their way through. So it's not going to be particularly safe for the time being, but overall, it's not a terrible thing either. I would also like a little bit of light in here because it is going to be important. So we'll pop a light down. Sure, we'll pop it over there. Now, this is not going to be the best place to research initially because it's not clean. And a research area, much like a hospital or, in fact, a kitchen, benefits greatly from having a clean environment to be done in. It makes sense when you think about it. Research typically does require a sterile environment. Specifically, it's a sterile environment that they want, not necessarily a tidy or clean one. But for the sake of the game, sterile and clean are largely the same thing. It's very dirty. Well, that is a bit of a problem, isn't it? Let's make sure that everything... Yeah, the only place that really needs to be in the home zone is in the home zone. I will add this into the home zone. And this just for the sake of dealing with fires or... Well, actually, you know what? No. We'll designate those as necessary for dealing with fires. For the time being, let's have a bit of a nap. It is the 9th of April, May, and we've managed to get to a point where we have power, we have storage, we have human noms that are never going to spoil, and we'll hopefully give Yoko a good couple of days of food until we can manage to get ourselves a source of other noms. And we are working on a research bench. I think that is a pretty good place to wrap up this first episode of this short story. I hope you have enjoyed. Please do let me know down in the comments below if you have enjoyed, or with a like on the video, and let me know what you're thinking about this series so far and where we should take it. Specifically, our plans to maybe try try and make an insect gauntlet. Yeah, that hasn't been working out so well in Dark World, except when it did, and it worked amazingly. But then it kind of got, yeah, it might not be worth the effort. But definitely we are going to be expanding out into this area and hopefully making use of that geotherm sooner rather than later, and then eventually this one as well. But do let me know if you have any suggestions, and if you want to start getting in there early with name ideas for the colony and the faction, then I would warmly welcome those in the comments as well. But that is going to be it from me. So until next time, and as always, from myself, Dark Aavak, and of course, Yoko, do take care, everyone. Because it wouldn't do for you not to take care of yourselves. We might have to eat you eventually. And yeah, let's just say that some people, not necessarily the healthiest food right now. Take care of yourselves. Good diet, plenty of exercise. Keep that meat nice and healthy. Thank you.